Reverse mortgages are getting some buzz today. For senior citizens living on a fixed income, reverse mortgages have been appealing. However, for their heirs inheriting that debt, it can be a nightmare. Some new rules are being put in place to safeguard those who are left holding that debt. Let's turn for an explanation from Paul Aslander for some answers for that. Paul, welcome. You're Director of Financial Planning with Provise Management. So what are these new rules and what are they intended to do?
Well, as you correctly pointed out, it's designed to protect the heirs from exactly what you described. I mean, reverse mortgages suffer from that bad reputation that they suffered for years because that marketplace was a bit like the Wild Wild West until 1989 when they came under HUD and FHA specifically guidelines and governance. And so over the years, those rules have developed into being a little bit easier for people to work with. If there's a positive equity flow in the home after the residents pass away, the heirs sell the home, they pay off the mortgage, and then they split the difference among themselves according to whatever estate planning was there. But if the house is underwater, under those FHA rules, they are not subject to have to pay that difference back. And so that protects them in that way. And I might add, by the way, that reverse mortgages are really HECMs as we know them in the financial business and by their true name, home equity conversion mortgages, because that's actually what they are. They're a conversion of a home equity into a mortgage for senior citizens to be able to access and use. And so it's unfortunate that they have the reputation that they have because they're a good instrument for certain families.
But Paul, there was a story in this morning's New York Times, which was a disturbing one, about people who seemingly either do not understand what happens when the owner of the home, the mortgage, the borrower dies. They either don't understand it or it's not being explained to them by the lender, and they are, as a result, being foreclosed upon. What is it that they're not understanding or not being told?
Well, I saw that story, and I'm as perplexed as you are. The fact of the matter is, after 2008, most, if not all, HECMs are written by underwriters that are governed by FHA guidelines, and in those guidelines, it specifically prohibits what was described in that article. So I understand, and I was equally confused by it. But the fact of the matter is, if you use a qualified mortgage broker that subscribes to those FHA guidelines, the heirs won't be in the position described in that article.
But you have to ask questions. In other words, if you were not the one who put in place the reverse mortgage and you all of a sudden you pass away, your heirs may not know the details of the reverse mortgage, of the underwriting.
Well, you're absolutely right. And to that point, full disclosure, full transparency is important. And in that case, an average 70-year-old, for instance, I live in Florida, and we see quite a few of these HECMs here in Florida. A 70-year-old might get 55% of the equity of their home to use. And when they pass away, the heirs have to then settle up that debt, but there's generally enough equity in the home to do so. When they went through the housing crash in 2008 and 2009, and people had HECMs that were written in the early 2000s, that turned some of those properties upside down. And if it wasn't an FHA mortgage, they had that problem.
Very quickly, if my loan is greater than the value of my house, what happens? Very quickly.
If it's an FHA loan, they aren't responsible for that difference.
That was quick.
That was quick and very insightful. Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate your being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.